Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Anupam's economic classes. In the previous video, I explained regarding the concepts of macroeconomics, the difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics. Now, in this video, I'm going to explain few of the concepts of macroeconomics. That means the concepts of national income. The term national income means value of final goods and services produced in an economy during an accounting year. Let's emphasize on this word. That means in the estimation of national income, we are only considering final goods. The goods are classified into final goods and intermediate goods when we are estimating national income. So, when we are estimating national income, we are not including intermediate goods, we are including final goods and services. Again, all these goods and services which are produced in an economy, that means this economy word is also important. All these goods and services which are produced in an economy during an accounting year. Accounting year means for a 1 year period. For that 1 year period, we estimate the value of all these final goods and services, and then we come to the conclusion or the calculation of national income. We should be particular in demarcating between final goods and intermediate goods. The final goods are those goods and services purchased for the purpose of final consumption and final investment. For example, when we purchase vegetable from market for consumption is an example of final good. Intermediate goods. Intermediate goods are those goods which are either used as raw materials for further production of goods or for the resale. Final goods are purchased by the consumers, as we are the consumers, as well as the producers. So these final goods are purchased by the consumers as well as the producers. But intermediate goods are only purchased by the producers. We don't purchase intermediate goods. By the consumers. That is why they are known as consumer goods. First of all, I am going to explain what are goods. In economics, good is defined as any physical object, natural or man-made, or services rendered that could command a price. So goods include physical objects like television, washing machine, and services of a doctor or a teacher which commands a price. So any good which commands a price, it can be a service also or it can be a physical object also. And these consumer goods are used by us in order to satisfy our wants. Now these goods or these consumer goods are durable goods. Now what are those durable goods? Durable goods are those goods which can be used for several years, like air conditioner in our house, refrigerator when we use in our house, They give services for many years. Then semi-durable goods. Now semi-durable goods are those goods which have expected lifetime, like clothes and crockery. They do not provide services for a longer period of time. Those are known as semi-durable goods. Then non-durable goods. Non-durable goods are those goods which are used only once. They lose their identity in a single act of consumption, like milk, vegetables, etc. And lastly, we utilize services. Now, these are non-material goods. They don't have any physical shape. We only utilize these services in order to satisfy our wants. Like when we take the services or we use the services of transportation, we use the services of education. So all these goods, durable goods, semi-durable goods, non-durable goods and services are known as consumer goods. Now, who are the consumers? Firstly, household is a consumer. Household, that is, we as consumer demand durable goods. In the last slide, I explained what are durable goods. We consume non-durable goods, semi-durable goods and services for the satisfaction of our wants. So the households are whom? Households are we as a consumer. So who are consuming the goods? We households are consuming the goods. We are the consumers. Even the government is the consumer. Now, you will tell me how the government is a consumer. The government also buys goods, consumer goods, for the distribution among defense forces, like for midday meals in government schools and such other purposes. So, the government is also a consumer. Then thirdly, the non-profit private institutions. They are also the consumer. They also demand for consumer goods. The non-profit private institutions like NGOs, temples, etc. They also buy consumer goods for charity. So what is the total consumption expenditure in the economy? It is by the households, it is by the government, and it is by the non-profit private institutions. So when we calculate consumption expenditure, total expenditure, consumption expenditure will be 1 plus 2 plus 3. Non-private institutions. So the total consumption expenditure will be 1 plus 2 plus 3. Are the producer goods. The producer goods refers to those goods which are used in the process of production of goods and services. That means these producer goods are demanded by the producers. They are not demanded by the consumers. They are further classified into capital goods. Now, what are these capital goods? These goods are used to produce other goods and services. They are not meant for resale in the market. That means these are the final goods for the producers, and they include fixed assets which are of high value like factory, building, machines, office furnitures, etc. And these goods are durable in nature. And also they are known as durable use producer goods. Like consumers, we also use durable goods like television, we use air conditioners, so they are known as durable use consumer goods. But when these durable use producer goods are used, they are known as producer goods. So these capital goods are producer goods, but all producer goods are not capital goods. This I will going to explain in the following slides. And the second is the intermediate goods. Now, what are intermediate goods? Intermediate goods are those goods which are used for in the process of production by the producers, or they are meant for resale. This concept of intermediate good I am going to explain in the following slides. So what are the two categories of producer goods? Producer goods are capital goods as well as intermediate goods. Capital goods, they provide services to the producers for a longer period of time, but intermediate goods are those goods which provide services once. That means when they use it, they lose their identity. And in national income, we only use final goods like consumer goods, all the categories like durable goods, non-durable goods, services, semi-durable goods consumed by the consumers for their satisfaction of the wants, and the producer goods, only one category, that is capital goods. Intermediate goods are not included in the estimation of national income. So what is the expenditure on final goods? Expenditure on final goods will be the consumption expenditure, that is by the consumers on durable goods, semi-durable goods, non-durable goods and services, plus investment expenditure. This capital goods, when they are purchasing capital goods, that is known as investment expenditure. Investment expenditure will be from the producers and consumption expenditure will be from the consumers. That means when we are estimating the expenditure on final goods, that will be the expenditure done by the consumers plus the expenditure done by the producers. Investment expenditure. All both these concepts, when they are added, it will give us the value of on the expenditure on final goods. Now, what is the difference between consumer goods and capital goods? In the previous slide, we have seen that there are consumer goods and there are producer goods. In the category of producer goods, we have capital goods. In consumer goods, we have four categories like durable use goods, non-durable use goods, semi-durable use goods, and services. Firstly, what is the first difference between a consumer good and a capital good? Consumption goods lead to direct satisfaction of human needs. Now, when we are consuming vegetable, when we are consuming air conditioner, when we are using refrigerator, it is satisfying our human wants directly. But capital goods do not lead to direct satisfaction of human wants, like machines utilized by the producer, electricity utilized by the producer. It is not satisfying our human wants directly. It is only utilized by the producer. Most consumption goods have limited lifetime of use. Yes, when we have studied regarding semi-durable goods, non-durable goods, naturally they are having a limited lifetime. When we consume it, it loses its identity. But capital goods generally have a lifespan of more than 1 year. That means all machines, their uh, construction, all they are having a span of more than 1 year. That means they do not lose their identity. Now, third difference is these goods are consumed by household when purchased. These are treated as direct demand. That means we directly demand the consumer goods for our satisfaction of our wants. But capital goods, these goods are not consumed by the household. We do not consume capital goods. Instead, these are used by producers for further production. These are treated as derived demand. That means we are not directly demanding it. It is a derived demand because these capital goods are used for further production. Expenditure on consumption good is called consumption expenditure. In the previous slide, I explained what is the value of final consumption. The value of final consumption had consumption expenditure. So when we are spending money on consumption good, it is known as consumption expenditure. But when we purchase capital goods or the producer purchase the capital good, it is known as investment expenditure. And when we add both the expenditures, we get the final expenditure of the economy. That means there are two type of consumers which demand final goods, like consumers as well as the producers. Now, the very important term in economics, that is intermediate goods, and it also have importance in the estimation of national income. Now, what are intermediate goods? It refers to single-use goods which are used by the producers as raw material during the manufacturing process, like use of electricity, office stationery, etc., or for resale in the same year. First of all, I'm going to explain intermediate goods are those goods which are purchased by one firm from the other firm. They are not directly consumed. They are demanded or they are purchased as a raw material or for a resale. Now, supposingly, I'm giving you one example. If if a producer purchases, that means we are talking regarding the firm, we are not talking regarding the consumers, we are talking regarding the producers. Supposingly, I'm having a production unit of biscuit. I will be purchasing flour and I will be using this as a raw material. When that flour is purchased by a consumer, it will become a final good. But when this flour is purchased by a firm, it will become an intermediate good because this flour will be utilized in order to produce biscuits. And if I'm having a wholesale, I'm a wholesaler, I may be purchasing biscuits. Naturally, those biscuits will be resold in the market, will be resold in the market. I'm get I'm getting a price for it, then it is known as a intermediate good. But when we are purchasing that biscuit from the market, it will be a final good by the consumer. Goods and final goods. Now, the intermediate goods refer to those goods which are used either for resale or for further production in the same year. That means intermediate goods refer only for those goods which are used for resale. We are not directly consuming it, or it is used for further production in the same year. I explained that when we are estimating national income, we estimate national income for the accounting year. So this same year means accounting year. Final goods refer to those goods which used either for consumption or for investment. That means when we are talking regarding final goods, either it is utilized by the consumers for consumption or by the producer for investment, like capital goods. Intermediate goods, secondly, they are not ready for use in the sense some value has to be added to the intermediate goods. That means intermediate goods have to be, they are not the final, we are not using those intermediate goods. We are, we have to add certain value to those intermediate goods. But final goods, they are ready for use in the sense that no value has to be added. So in intermediate goods, we have to add certain value before the consumption, but for final goods, we don't have to add any value for the consumption. They are ready for consumption. Thirdly, they are still within the production boundary. I'm going to explain the concept of production boundary in the later slides. So they are within the production boundary. But final goods, they are ready for use in the sense that no value has to be added. That means they are ready. They, they are they are not within the production boundary. They are outside the production. For example, coal used in factory for further production. We are using coal when it is utilized in a factory, it becomes intermediate goods. And for example, milk purchased by household for consumption, it becomes the final good. Here I am going to explain with few examples the difference between intermediate good and final good. One good can be an intermediate good or it can be a final good. Let's take the example of sugar. Sugar, when we utilize in a house for making cup of tea or milk, that sugar will be final good. But when that sugar is utilized in order to produce toffee or biscuit or certain sweets, that sugar will become intermediate good. It will not be a final good, it will become an intermediate. So how we can demarcate between intermediate good and final good? We can demarcate between final good and intermediate good by the end use of the good. If that good is used for further production, then it will be intermediate good. But when that good is directly consumed, then it is known as final good. So when the question comes in the question paper that demarcate between final good and intermediate good, we have to find out how that good is utilized, whether it is utilized by the producer for further production, then it will be an intermediate good. But if that good is utilized by the consumer itself, then it will become a final good. This term I utilized in my previous slide when I was explaining the difference between final good and intermediate. As long as good remains within the production boundary, they remain intermediate goods. It is only when a good comes out of the boundary, it becomes final good. That means some value is added by the production unit in the production boundary. And when that value is added and that good becomes for final consumption, it comes out for the final consumption from the production boundary, it becomes final good. And production boundary is an imaginary line around the producing sector of an economy. It is only an imaginary line. For example, a farmer produces wheat worth rupees 1000. He is producing wheat worth rupees 1000. He sells this wheat to the baker who converts this into bread and sells the same to the grocer for rupees 2000. What is happening? A farmer is producing wheat worth rupees 1000, sells to the baker, and he is converting that wheat into bread and selling to the grocer for rupees 2000. Then the grocer sells these breads to the consumers for rupees 2200. Supposingly, the intermediate consumption of the farmer is nothing. It is nil. He is having no intermediate consumption. Then the value added by the farmer will be 1000 minus 0, because 0, that is, he is not having any intermediate consumption, that will be 1000. But value added by the baker is 2000 minus 1000, because from of 1000 he has purchased wheat from the farmer. 2000 minus 1000 is the value added by the baker, and the value added by the grocer will be 2200 minus 2000, that is 200 is the value added by the grocer, because he purchased it from the grocer of 2000 rupees, worth rupees 2000, and he sold it worth rupees 2200. So his value added will be 200. So when this process is going on, farmer is producing wheat, he is selling it to the baker, baker is selling it to the grocer, and then it is coming to the consumers for final consumption. So this area will be known as production boundary, because some value is being added to the goods, and then it is crossing the boundary and it is becoming a final for self-consumption and goods for exchange. Now, what is good for self-consumption? Goods produced by the producers and retained for their own use are called goods for self-consumption. It is also known as own account production. Now, when a good is produced by a farmer, that is, a wheat is produced by a farmer, and the farmer retains some portion of wheat for self-consumption, then it is known as goods for self-consumption. And it is also known as goods on own account production. But goods for exchange means when goods are sold for a price by the producers are known as goods for exchange. Supposingly a farmer is producing wheat, he retains a certain amount for himself, then it is known as goods for self-consumption, and sells the other portion in the market, it is known as goods for exchange. In the previous slides, I explained that when we are purchasing goods with a price, that is known as a final good, and these producers are selling those goods for a price, then it is known as goods for exchange. And when the farmer is not selling the good and it is consuming itself, that portion is consumed by himself, then it is known as own account production. Point of view of examination, all capital goods are producer goods, but all producer goods are not capital goods. Explain. For that, we should be understanding that producer goods include goods used as raw materials, In my previous slides, I explained what are producer goods, like intermediate goods, and goods used as fixed assets like capital goods. For example, if I'm a carpenter, then I will be using woods, nails, paints, etc. with the help of various tools and machines in order to produce furniture. Here, wood nails are non-durable goods which cannot be used again and again. They will lose their identity when I will use it. And they are single-use producer goods. But when I'm using machineries, tools and implements, they can be used many times as they are durable use producer goods. That means those are capital goods. A producer uses both these goods like durable use goods and non-durable use goods in the process of production. So all capital goods are producer goods, which we know that all the capital goods are producer goods because they are durable goods. But all producer goods like raw materials is not capital goods because they are non-durable goods. So those durable use goods which are utilized by the producers are capital goods. So all capital goods are producer goods like machineries, tools and implements are capital goods and they are also used only by the producers. But in the process of production, a producer is also utilizing raw materials, that is non-durable use goods. But these non-durable use goods are not capital goods. Here we can demarcate what are capital goods. Capital goods are those goods which are providing services for the longer period of time. That means they are durable use goods. But producer is also utilizing raw material which is not durable use goods. That is why all the producer goods are not capital goods, but all capital goods are producer goods. You might have understood the concepts of intermediate goods, concept of final good, production boundary, goods for self-consumption and goods for exchange. Again, I am explaining in a gist. What are final goods? Those goods which are utilized for satisfaction of human wants directly, those are final goods. And these final goods can be utilized by the producers as well as by the consumers. And intermediate goods are those goods which are utilized for further production and they are utilized only by the producers, not by the consumers. Then the concept of production boundary, when value is added within the production boundary, those goods are intermediate goods, and when they crosses the boundary for final consumption, then those goods are known as final goods. Goods for exchange and goods for self-consumption, when in the process of production, if a producer keeps a part or the portion for self-consumption, does not sell it in the market, then it is known as goods for self-consumption. And when it sells it in the market, then it is known as goods for exchange. In my next video, I will be explaining the concept of investment, stock and flow, which is very important for the concept of national income. Thank you.